Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. This is my review of Happyend, a Japanese movie from 2024. The following plot synopsis was taken from the South China Morning Post. An inner-city high school becomes the testing ground for an intrusive new security system in Happyend, the debut feature from Japanese-American filmmaker Neo Sora. Through the prism of this institution, the film observes the strengthening grip of an authoritarian regime as anxiety builds over an impending earthquake and widespread malaise among the adolescent community is squashed with an iron fist. So students Yuta and Kou, our main protagonists, are best friends and founders of the school music club. When caught sneaking into a nightclub, Yuta's let off with a slapped wrist, but Kou is Korean, and the police immediately give him grief. In any case, the boys pull an elaborate prank on their corrupt principal, and the faculty fights back by installing a state-of-the-art security system, basically surveillance system. So early on, our protagonists hang out with each other, and they seem to have a love for techno music, which is kind of interesting. These guys are really like jamming out into the late hours of the night, and they do go a bit too far one night at their school, which is one of their hangout spots after everyone leaves, And you do not see them perform this prank on the principal, but you do see the results, and it's very impressive. I mean, I was just looking at the results the next morning. They show what happened, and I was almost confused as to exactly how it was accomplished. But now our protagonists and the total student body need to deal with the consequences of crossing the number one authority figure in the school. And, this is very much kind of a friendship movie as well. The bond between our two leads is nicely showcased, and it is a pretty convincing friendship, I think. Kou appears to be the hothead of the two, and he tends to talk back to authority when it's probably best to simply shut his mouth and play the game, as Yuta mentions at one point. Of course, this movie is set in Japan, which is a very rules-based society, right? Where the nail that sticks up is hammered down. Unfortunately, some of our protagonists just do not care about following the rules, and they become rather defiant and even outwardly disobedient. Now, as the film rolls along, you get an idea of their perspective. You kind of understand their point of view, because they do have discussions about, why they're acting this way, especially after the surveillance system is installed. But constantly peeing into the wind usually does not end well, right? There are multiple themes in this movie, too, like the theme of immigrants and people in Japan who have heritage from other countries, like half Japanese, half Koreans, and even some early Takashi Miike films kind of touched on this, right? His earlier films in the 90s and early 2000s, and how you how you kind of have to deal with that while you're living in Japan, which is a very homogenous society. You get the authoritarian policies in regard to the immigrants as well, and parallels are drawn between the situation at the school and political policy in Japan, with some pretty, insightful observations, like faking an emergency to install a dictatorship, stuff like that. And this touches on some important real-world topics, but it never feels too preachy, and that's kind of a big positive. The finale is a bit different from what I was expecting, introducing a kind of a nuanced discussion of the surveillance issue from a Japanese perspective. In addition to the intelligent way that the script kind of handles the commentary, another positive is that the acting and the character interaction feel very natural in this. One potential problem could be that the film's content could come off rather like dry and clinical, but the filmmakers succeed in balancing the social commentary and dramaticism with warmer character moments. There's actually a small group of friends who are kind of like the focus, and they like to have a good time together, and it also provides a slightly different angle for the film to explore its themes. So even if this movie was not so thematically dense, it could have succeeded as just like a slice of life film as well. I will say at times the pacing can meander a bit while it focuses on the protagonists kind of hanging out. But this movie, Happyend, is a pretty nice package. It's a good quality film, and it takes a look at some, legitimate issues. So if you want like just a solid Japanese dramatic film from the last few years, this is a pretty good option here. It's currently streaming on YouTube and Amazon. Now, if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. I think most people will like it. And as always, folks, we'll see you next time.